So that's what all the fuss is about, huh? How many records did that sell, Mr. Carson?
Over 650,000 copies, Your Honor. And it's still on the charts. It's the biggest-selling debut album Gibble Records has ever had.
Now you can see, Your Honor, why this is more than a simple emancipation case. There are literally millions of dollars involved here.
Yeah, well, you know as well as I do there's no such thing as a simple emancipation case. Money or no money. I'm Judge Robert J. Franklin. I chose the law as my way of serving my fellow citizens. As an elected judge in the family court, I pray each day that God will give me the wisdom to always temper justice with mercy.
What you're about to see is a dramatization of an actual case in family court. Because of the emotional and sensitive nature of the issues presented here, Judge Franklin's courtroom is closed to the public. The proceedings are about to begin.
All rise. This court is now in session. The Honorable Robert J. Franklin presiding. Raise your right hands. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Be seated, please. All right, Miss Page, let's go.
Your Honor, this is a consolidated action brought by Alex and Valerie Jasper, ages 16 and 15, respectively, who are both seeking emancipation from their mother, Mrs. Michelle Jasper. Testifying for the plaintiffs will be their older brother, Nick Ranger, and Mr. Jimmy Goldstein. Mr. Lou Kernan will testify for the defense.
Thank you, Miss Page. Mr. Carson, have you an opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor.
Good.
My clients, Alex and Valerie Jasper, along with their brother Nick, are known as the rock group The Process. Now, their hit records have skyrocketed them to the top of their profession. Their music has been heard by millions of young people. They are here today to gain emancipation from their mother, Michelle, who has refused to let them continue the momentum of their journey towards superstardom, which can only result in broken dreams and the tragedy of a musical career cut off before its time.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Hall, what have you to say, sir?
Your Honor, Michelle Jasper is proud of Alex and Valerie's accomplishments in the very demanding business of music, and she'd be thrilled if their careers were to continue. She only wants to make sure that they are properly trained and educated, and that they don't sacrifice their futures for some flash-in-the-pan lure of instant success. As a concerned mother, she's trying to prepare her children for real life, life after rock and roll. And she opposes their petition for emancipation because she knows how brutal the music industry can be. And, of course, because she loves her children. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hall. Mr. Carson, your first witness, please.
I call Valerie Jasper to the stand, Your Honor.
Very well, sir.
Sure, we're doing the right thing, Nick. Alex, rock and rollers don't live with their mamas.
All right, Counselor, go ahead.
Valerie, tell us how your group, The Process, got started.
About a year ago, we rented the studio and cut a demo tape. And Nick sent copies to all the different record companies. Gibble Records called us the next week. They're a small local company. They offered to release one of our songs as a single, and they did. And the radio stations began playing it, and we were on top of the charts, and we signed a contract with Gibble Records to do an album.
And does success come this quickly to most bands?
No way. We were really lucky, and we know that. Almost no one gets a hit on their first record. But because we did, we have this chance to sign with Mega. They're like the hottest record company going right now. But Mom won't sign the contracts.
What reason did your mom give for saying no?
I guess she's just doing what she thinks is best. But she just doesn't understand how much this can mean to us, to the band.
How has the band's success affected your family?
It's been one big hassle, fighting and yelling. When we first started the band, the whole family go to our gigs. Together, you know. But now, Mom won't go anymore, and she and Nick won't even speak to each other. Nobody's willing to work anything out.
Valerie, if you win your emancipation, what will you do?
Well, Nick already owns a condo, and there's some spaces still available in his building, and Alex and I will just probably move in next to him. And Mega Records has found someone to handle our money.
What about school?
Well, I've got 2 years left of high school, and Alex has got 1. And the record company says they'll get a private tutor for us when we're recording or out on tours. We'll get our diplomas.
Thank you, Valerie. No further questions, Your Honor.
Very well, sir. Mr. Hall, will you cross-examine?
Valerie, the process owes a lot of its success to your mother, doesn't it? In fact, didn't you come out during the 4th encore at your Ludlam University Stadium concert and say, "Thanks, Mom. We couldn't have gotten here without your courage and strength"?
Well, yes, I said that, but that was...
And
before.
isn't it true that the only long-term financial planning that you and Alex have was done by your mother and Mr. Kernan?
Well, yeah, but Mega says he'll do that now.
And didn't you tell your mother only a few days ago that you really wished you could work this thing out without taking it to court?
Well, yeah, you think I like dragging her here?
Of course not. No further questions, Your Honor.
She won't open her mind to anything.
All right, Valerie, you may step down. Thank you very much. Alex, I understand that you're not going to testify here today, but I want you to know that I have received your written deposition stating your desire and your reasons for emancipation on the same grounds as your sister. Is there anything more that you'd like to add at this time?
Well, yes, Your Honor. The main thing is we don't want to break up our family.
Well, seems to me that's a risk you're taking, son.
Well, no, I mean, we still want Mom to come with us on our tours and stuff. But, Your Honor, this is a once-in-a-lifetime chance for our band. And with the money we'll be making, we'll be able to help Mom out, too.
Do you feel your mother needs help?
Well, yeah, I mean, she had to raise us all by herself when Dad left. And so things were pretty tight. That is until we started getting gigs. We won't let you down, Mom. But like Nick says, this is our best shot. We gotta do it. Now.
All right, Alex, thank you very much. Mr. Carson, have you another witness?
Yes, Your Honor. I call Nick Ranger to the stand.
Very well, sir. You may proceed, Mr. Carson.
Nick, how is the process doing?
Fantastic, man. A gold album, 2 platinum singles, and now Mega Records wants to give us a 3-album deal. It's all happening. I mean, at least it would be if Mom and Lou would butt out.
What do you mean, Nick?
I mean, they have no idea what the music business is about today. Mom was some flower child in a psychedelic band about 20 years ago, and the big stack Lou ever managed before us was a ventriloquist who couldn't keep his lips still. Now we have a chance to make it to the top, and Mom and Lou want us to go back to playing high school proms.
Well, your mother says she's worried about your future. What about that?
We're not going to be a one-trick pony. I mean, we've already proved that. Besides, Mega's got investment people, business managers, everything, man.
Now, Nick, you're the eldest and the leader of the group. Now, do you have plans for taking care of your brother and sister? I mean, both professionally and personally, if they're emancipated?
Absolutely. I mean, I already planned on getting them a condo. We're a team. I'll check them out on school and stuff. We've got it knocked.
Well, if they're emancipated, what will that do to your relationship with your mother?
Mom will be sore for a while, but she'll come around. We've had fights before, but when she sees how good we're doing, she'll understand. She'll admit she was wrong.
Thank you, Nick. No further questions, Your Honor.
Very well, Mr. Hall, cross-examine.
Nick, or should I call you Mr. Ranger, because that's your name now, isn't it?
This is my stage name. It's no big deal.
I see. And you're so concerned with your family, and yet you changed your name?
Hey, man, it's just rock and roll, you know? You think Lord Nasty's his real name?
Oh, yes, rock and roll. You love rock and roll, don't you? Matter of fact, you love the rock and roll lifestyle. Like just 2 months ago, you were convicted of driving under the influence of drugs, specifically cocaine. Oh, and that was after you wrapped your car around that tree,
That
man.
was a mistake.
Well, I would say so, yes. But didn't you insist that Valerie and Alex file this petition just after that? Just after the negative publicity and the legal fees started hitting your pocketbook?
It was for the good of the band.
What about the good of your family?
Hey, man, she's the one always putting me down, never thinking my music's good enough.
Nick, I never said that. I love your music, but you're letting it run your life. You don't know what you're doing anymore.
Mrs. Jasper, please, I'm sure you'll have your opportunity before this is all over. Go ahead, Counselor.
Nick, you're broke, aren't you? You've blown every cent you've ever earned, and now you need some fast money. But the record company's not going to sign you without your brother and sister, so you're willing to tear apart your family just to cover up the mess you've made of your own life. Now, isn't that the truth?
That is BS, and I'm not going to sit here and let you trash me. Man, you wouldn't know star material if Elvis himself walked in here.
Young man,
That's all right, Your Honor. I think he said quite enough. I have no further questions.
All right, Mr. Hall, you may step down, young man, but let me warn you of something. You've come very close to being cited for contempt today, and don't you forget it. That's all. Your next witness, Mr. Carson.
I call Mr. Jimmy Goldstein to the stand, Your Honor.
Very well, sir. Mr. Goldstein, as you approach the stand, let me remind you that you were sworn in as this hearing began, and now as you testify, you'll be testifying under oath. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Very well. Go ahead, Counselor.
Mr. Goldstein, where are you employed?
I signed new talent for Mega Records.
And you offered the process a contract, correct?
That's correct. I offered them a 3-album deal over a 6-year period with a bonus for each gold and platinum record.
That's Plaintiff's Exhibit 1, Your Honor. Now, what else does that contract incorporate?
Well, let's see. All management, personal and otherwise, all bookings, tutors for Alex and Val until the age of 18, and most important, financial counseling.
Well, that sounds like a pretty good deal.
Well, I think it is. It's very, very generous. Trouble is, if they don't sign now, we can't wait for them.
What do you mean, Mr. Goldstein?
Well, that's the nature of the business. You've got to strike while the iron is hot. Not a year from now, not 6 months from now, but now. I mean, there are thousands of groups who are just dying to sign with Mega Records.
And aren't Mega's promotional capabilities far greater than Gibble Records?
Please, be serious. I mean, we're going to make them a household name. They'll be on the cover of national magazines. I'm talking television, videos, movies. They are going to be big, big stars.
Thank you, Mr. Goldstein. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Very well, sir. Will you cross-examine Mr. Hall?
Well, let's take another closer look at that contract, shall we, Mr. Goldstein? Now, isn't it true that Mega Records charges all of its promotional costs against the band's royalties? In fact, if a record is not a hit, why, the process could end up owing you money, isn't that right?
That's standard stuff. I mean, those kids are going to make enough money for everybody.
And what about Section 15C, which states that if their second album sells less than their first, Mega has the option to cancel the entire contract?
Hey, that's a standard protection clause.
But you must admit that there's a very good possibility that, say, a year from now, the process will be out on the streets with no contract whatsoever. Isn't that right?
Hey, that's rock and roll, babe.
And that's no further questions, Your Honor.
Very well, sir. You may step down, Mr. Goldstein. Thank you very much. Mr. Carson, your next witness, please.
The plaintiff rests, Your Honor.
Very well, sir. Mr. Hall, your first witness, please.
Your Honor, I call Mr. Lou Kernan to the stand.
All right, sir.
We will return to the judge.
You may proceed, Mr. Hall.
Mr. Kernan, how did you become involved in this case?
I used to handle a group that the mother was in back in the old days. And when it looked like the kids were serious about the process, Michelle asked me to manage them.
And why are you opposed to the contract that the kids have been offered by Mega Records?
It's because of that standard protection clause. I've seen that ruin more groups than I can count. Gibble Records, the kids' current label, is willing to give them a good deal without the drop clause.
But isn't Gibble Records really much smaller than Mega?
Yes, and they're much more personal. Look, these kids are already a hit, and that's the only reason that Mega wants them. Gibble takes the long view. They'll do everything to ensure a group's continuing success. At Mega, they'll just get lost in the shuffle.
And have you ever talked to Valerie and Alex about why they want this emancipation?
Yes, it's because of Nick. Nick Ranger, the big rock star. They never even heard of emancipation until he brought it up. He needs them more than they need him. But let's say I'll slow down, and they'll be out the door. No contract and no fancy record company support. Just 3 kids who are has-beens before they're 21.
Thank you, Mr. Kernan. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Very well, Counselor. Cross-examine, Mr. Carson.
Mr. Kernan, isn't it true that Nick sent the demos to Mega Records over your protests when you said that the band, and I quote, was not ready yet?
Yes, that's right. And they're still not ready. They got lucky. They hit the top. Now the hard part is staying on top.
And the proposed contract with Gibble Records is for significantly less than the contract with Mega, correct?
Well, it's true that the front money is not as good, but
Thank you. No further questions.
Huh.
You may step down, Mr. Kernan. Thank you very much. Your next witness, Mr. Hall.
Your Honor, I call Michelle Jasper to the stand.
Very well, sir. Mrs. Jasper, as you approach the witness stand, let me remind you that you were sworn in as this hearing began. You're now about to testify under oath. Clear? All right, Counselor, go ahead.
Michelle, Why do you oppose this action? I mean, it looks like your kids are headed for the big time.
Because they are children. Alex and Valerie are not ready to be out on their own. Neither is Nick. God knows he's proven that. But he's 19. There's nothing I can do.
But what about Valerie and Alex?
Well, we can still talk. Well, they'd be happy to leave things as they are, but Nick intimidates them. Being in a band, making music, it's still fun for them. But because Nick has made a mess of his life, he only sees the chance to grab some quick money. That's not what music is about.
You were in the music business yourself, weren't you?
Yes, I was in the Orange Stopwatch. Oh, you probably haven't heard of us. We only had one hit, Light of the Night in '67. We broke up in '71. I was never able to catch on with another band after that. Nick was only 3, and Alex was just a baby, so I had my hands full anyway.
And your husband was in the group, wasn't he?
Yeah. We split up in '72, right after Valerie was born. He runs a health food restaurant on the coast now. We haven't heard from him in years.
Michelle, have you ever really tried to sit down and talk to your kids about what your experiences were like in the music business?
Well, yes, I've tried. They just don't realize how shaky it all is. Well, sure, make records now. Have the fun and the excitement. It's wonderful. But what's the harm in thinking of the future? Getting prepared for the inevitable day when their records stop being million sellers. I love my kids very much. I don't want to see them burned out, begging for any kind of work with nothing to fall back on.
Thank you, Michelle. I have no further questions, John.
Very well, Counselor. Mr. Carson, will you cross-examine?
Mrs. Jasper, just because you were a failure in the music business, is that any reason to hold your kids back? I mean, after all, they've already had more hit records than you did.
I'm proud of my children. I want the best for them.
Then why don't you let them have their success?
Because it's coming too fast. They can't handle it yet. They're teenagers, for God's sake. They don't need to be a corporation yet.
Aren't you trying to destroy the band because your son Nick is easing you out of the picture?
No. I just don't want to see any of them hurt. I don't want them to be used by a big company, then suffer for it later.
Oh, I see. You'd rather see them suffer now and later. Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
You may step down, Mrs. Jasper. Thank you very much. Mr. Hall, anything further?
No, Your Honor. The defense rests.
Mr. Carson?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Very well. We'll call a brief recess. I'll need a few moments to prepare a decision.
Next time on The Judge.
We contend that these minor children are in fact living outside the law with no protection.
Ice, delicious freeze-at-home treat. Comes in assorted fruit flavors. 18 bars per box. Treat your youngsters with refreshing Pop Ice.
Now, fast relief for gas pain and bloating. Gas X has the strongest, fastest doctor-recommended ingredient. For fast relief, Gas X.
MediQuick protects cuts and scrapes from infection and helps heal the hurt. Spray products for quick protection, antibiotic ointment for extra protection. MediQuick.
The lure of fame, excitement, and riches is indeed a very, very strong one. However, in the case of a career with a high degree of instability, the striving for success must always be tempered with wisdom. Now, Alex and Valerie, I don't believe you're ready to leave home just yet, so I'm denying your petition for emancipation. And I agree wholeheartedly with your mother. If you believe in yourselves and your music, that stability will always be with you. Nick, I'm seriously concerned about what I've heard today regarding your lifestyle. Son, if you continue in this way, I'm afraid you won't have any career at all. I don't want to see your talent wasted. Let me urge you to slow down and take a long, serious look at your future, for your sake and for the sake of your fine family. Now, the process, it seems to me, has a potential to be a popular group for many years to come. And to ensure that popularity, ensure its continuance, I suggest a compromise to you. Record now, but only book tours during the summer months so your schooling isn't affected. I know that seems like a long time when you're young, But in just 2 more years, you'll be able to tour full-time if that's still what you want to do. The main thing is to work it out among yourselves and to remember that you're a family first and a business second. It's easy to see that there's a great bond of love between all of you. So all of you, please, keep on trying to be good to each other. That's all. This court stands adjourned.
Oh, I'm sorry, kids, but I do think this is for the best.
What about the band?
I want you guys to stay together. But let's look at both these contracts. Go over all the details,
Yeah, we
okay?
never knew anything about that standard protection thing.
What about touring?
Oh, I agree with the judge. The summertime's okay. And if you don't mind, I'd like to go along.
Mind? Come on, Mom. You know we'd love it. That's great.
What about Nick?
I don't know. Let's ask him. Nick?
Are you happy now?
No. And I won't be until you and I can talk like people again.
Yeah, well, don't hold your breath, okay?
Nick, don't walk away. We're a team, remember?
Come on, Nick, let's talk about it.